As per usual, we start our second episode by choosing a mastery. And as I said before, we're gonna go with Sorcerer, a master of the arcane who wields unprecedented power to devastate their foes from a distance. Get passive bonuses of 50 extra mana, that is great for us. Spells deal increased damage equal to their mana cost. Okay, so we will need to start consuming more in order to deal more damage. And we also unlock the Meteor, which is a fire spell, and definitely something we will use. Here we are at level 20, and now it's time to spend some points and do some damage. As far as gear goes, I haven't replaced a whole lot. I mean, with so many uniques which give us so much power for this early leveling process, I didn't really feel the need to replace anything. I threw in the average gloves, which you get from the quest, 3% of elemental damage leech test health, that is actually good, 13% elemental resistance, always good, and the 35% increased leech rate on this occasion is actually working well in our favor because we're getting leech from the average gloves, we're getting some life leech here from the Tome of Elements, and we're also getting from the Prism Wraps some health leech on crit. So overall, I feel like these work really well together as a combo. But more important than that, let's take a look over here in the Mage. We're gonna spend some passive skill points. We need to invest 20 as per usual in the Mage tree, so we need to get up to here in order to start investing in the Sorcerer Mastery. And the Sorcerer Mastery is quite good. We get 50 mana over here and spells deal increased damage equal to their mana cost. The high mana pool is really good. However, I have a bit of a problem, and that problem is I don't have good mana regeneration. We will need to invest and reforge our equipment in a way that we can get a bit more of that. And you can see when we're attacking normal enemies, unless we're doing that burn fire spread thing, it's really difficult to take them down. My damage at this point is quite low, and we need to focus on getting a bit more. However, if I wanted more damage, this meteor here does almost double the damage, 741 per attack. It's a very quick attack, like I can throw down multiple of these and it doesn't take more than half a second to cast it. However, the downside of it is that it consumes 52 mana, and meaning that if I cast it 3 times, if I cast it the 4th time, then I'm in big trouble because I don't have any more mana to cast anything, not even the fireball. And that can be very dangerous in certain situations. I can't put up a shield, I can't throw in any of the attacks, and that is pretty bad. So this is what we're working with right now. I'll go through this map just to show off how I can take care of enemies. I also kept at the moment in the skill bar this attack called Static. Static charges up as you move and when you get hit. Activate static to discharge what you have built up, striking up to 5 enemies with lightning. 100% charges maximum, deals 4% more damage per charge. And you can see that at this point, when I'm at 100 static charges, it's 1600 damage that we're doing at a cost of 15 mana. That is very little for a whole lot, and if I find a boss I will use that. Let's see, we don't have a boss, but I will try it on these enemies. We'll do the static. As you can see, pretty much burn whatever. It feels like such a good attack to keep in the bar and just throw it in whenever you have a longer encounter, because as we're moving around, as you can see, we're getting those charges. If we get hit, we get to recharge those charges. So overall, it's working, right? It's working in our favor, and it's all good. But let's start spending some passive skill points. What do we do here? We have Arcane Current. When you hit an enemy with a lightning skill, you cast Arcane Lightning at additional enemies dealing lightning damage. This effect has 5 seconds cooldown. Overall, Arcane Lightning is a single target lightning spell. Its damage is increased by intelligence and increases lightning damage and spell damage. Cool. Mage Flurry, increase attack speed, increase cast speed, and increase the recovery of Snap Freeze and also of Teleport. Okay, this seems like it's a good one for a melee wizard, right? Because the Snap Freeze also has a cone attack and it's close range, so you might want to use that as a melee. Plus, freezing the enemies means that they can't hit you, so it also works. Arcane Flames. When you hit an enemy with a fire skill, you ignite additional nearby enemies. This effect has 5-second cooldown. And if we invest 5 points, your hits deal more fire damage to ignited enemies, multiplicative with other modifiers. Increased by 5%. Sure, we're going to invest 5 points here. Fire damage is good. Then we've unlocked a new set of skills. Warden. Get ward retention plus 10 per point, meaning that when we cast that shield, for example, which gives us 400 ward, it's going to take a lot longer for it to run out. Knowledge of Destruction, increased critical strike chance, 7 per point. I like that. Critical multiplier, 3% per point. I will throw a point in here because it's a 7% critical strike chance. That's pretty good. And the Rune of Winter, increase the chance that to freeze and convert Lightning Blast and Volcanic Orb to cold spells. I see. This is something for cold. We don't need to read any further because we're not really investing in that. So at this point, I want nearby enemies ignited 5. We could go to 6, but I feel like the better spends. It's better to spend a point here in increasing this, right? Just increase the percentage of the fire damage, and I guess a bit more health wouldn't be bad. Now we have a new skill, 2 new skills, and we'll take a look at all of them before we go to Sorcerer. Sun and Storms. You deal increased fire and lightning damage. You gain ward when you use a lightning skill or a fire skill. This effect has 7-second cooldown, but the cooldown is not shared between different elements. So you can gain ward from a fire skill and a lightning skill within the same 7-second duration. Wow. So if we go with Disintegrate here, where we're doing lightning and fire damage, this is going to add up to ward with both of those. Impressive. Ice and Fire. Ignite deals fire, and it has an effect with chill, but we don't care because we're not casting chill. Ignite deals fire damage over time, lasts 2.5 seconds, and can stack an unlimited number of times. Okay, that's 7%. That's pretty good. Then we get some Arcane Wind, which chills nearby enemies. That feels really good for a melee warrior. And Silver Rune, which gives us a bunch of ward. I would put 2 points or 1 point in both of these before we go to Sorcerer. Now we are in the Sorcerer stage. Arcane Momentum. When you cast a spell, you gain a stack of Arcane Momentum for 2 seconds, and refreshing the duration of all existing stacks. Each stack of Arcane Momentum increases your cast speed by 5 points. That's nice. You can have only 1 instance of Arcane Momentum. Okay. Calculated Destruction, getting 1 intelligence per point. And it also increases spell critical strike chance per intelligence by 3%. Also nice. Armor, Mana Shell. Armor and Mana. This is definitely for a melee caster, I would say. I mean, I guess armor is good for anyone, but definitely useful in melee. So I'm gonna go with Arcane Momentum for now. I guess I want to invest 5 points here. I guess I do, because it's giving us 1 intelligence, and then it's giving us a bunch of critical strike chance per intelligence. I feel like that's pretty good. We have 11 intelligence, so that's a 33% just from the start without considering other investments. And then we're going to go into our active skills. As far as Fireball goes, definitely need to invest a lot more here in Ignite Chance just to get to Spreading Inferno. So 4 points there, we're going to go towards Spreading Inferno. Over here with the shield, we said that we want to go with Flame Aura. That's the first thing. Fire Aura deals more damage. This also affects Fire Aura from other sources other than Flame Ward. Sure. We could gain some haste and get a bit more damage with fire. I like this one where we get increased fire damage while active. If Flame Ward is converted to cold or lightning, then this damage is also increased or converted. What else? Retribution. He attack enemies back. Could be. Ward granted. I don't think I need more ward granted. It's a lot of investment to get the knockback, although it might be very useful for later on. Can cast on allies, which would be an interesting thing. Ward retention. Yeah, at this moment I'm thinking gaining haste is a good way to go forward, or I could invest even more points into fire damage, like get this 100%, maybe 250%. And on this side, definitely going to throw in this. We're gonna throw in Meteor. And let's see, Meteor deals more damage and even more against enemies at full health. This could be really good if you're firing from a distance and never attacking, but I generally do throw a bunch of fireballs before I move in, and thus enemies get damaged all the time. I guess we could say something about increasing the area of effect here, which would be good. We could also go with Craterborn. Casting Meteor grants a Craterborn buff, granting additional fire penetration and increased cast speed for a short duration. Okay, I like that. A bit more fall speed, a bit more cast speed, but more mana cost. Shrapnel chance has a chance, the meteor has a chance to break into shrapnel, hitting nearby enemies. That's also cool. Shrapnel can pierce, more range. There's a lot here that we could do. Large meteor chance. Always crits when above 400 mana. If we have more than 400 mana before we cast it, we always crit. That is a crazy amount of mana. But I guess it is one way to make a build. We could get even more meteors. We could get a bit of stun chance and stun duration, sure. After you cast Meteor, you recover a portion of the mana spent over the next 3 seconds. You can only recover mana from one cast at once, so if you cast Meteor again within 3 seconds, you lose the remaining mana you would have recovered from the first, but we would still get it from the second. Okay, well, we have 3 points, so I am thinking that I should be going into Shrapnel first. And then I'm going to go over here and get that chance to recover some mana. And now let's put it to work. Going pretty well for us. Put a bit of cast and move out. Yeah. Whenever we're spreading that fire damage, it's really impressive. And I'm still running with that 19% chance or 21% chance from this one. 90% chance to spread flames on hit. I'm still running with that one. I don't have it through passive skills at this moment, but we will get it soon. Over here with the shield, we want more fire damage? Maybe? I'm not using fire that often, or this shield that often, but I guess there's something to be said about going with more fire damage, or shall we start investing into knockback? You know what, I feel like that is not a bad idea at this moment. It's not our primary damage dealing skill. We're not going to use it that often in order to damage enemies. I feel like it was better to get the knockback and throw in a few more fireballs, maybe even a meteor or something like that, right? Let's see, let's drop a meteor there. It took almost 50% of the of the life of that totem. So I could cast two of the meteors, and we can take one of these out. Let's try it out. I mean, why get attacked by this, right? When we can do an attack like that. Apparently we didn't cast it properly, but now we did. As you can see, as far as mana goes, like spending a lot of it, doing a lot of these meteor showers or things like that, it's going to be hurting us. So I need to throw in some mana regeneration, and we're gonna do it here in a second. Nice. I like the stuns as well, very useful. These stashes usually have some mana. It's just straight up mana. I want to have mana regeneration. And let's see, over here I think we have everything, yes. These rings are nothing special. I don't really want to keep them for long. The helmet is giving us just mana. I could throw in some intelligence there. Over here we have one open. Let's see. A slot open. Can I get some mana regeneration? Yes, I can. We're gonna upgrade this one, since I do seem like I have a lot of shards. Let's collect these potions. As far as the early game goes, I feel like the Mage and the Sorcerer, they do have some interesting modifiers. I like the one where if you have 400 mana before you cast the meteor, it's going to increase your damage, or what was it? Cast this really big, yeah, always crit. That is an interesting way to throw a lot of mana into a build. And because you can do a lot of meteors without who knows what, without cooldown, right? It's at 900% effectiveness, the added damage. It's definitely one of those situations where you could go crazy with meteors and really use that entire mana before regenerating again. But having a 400 mana pool without regeneration is going to be super painful. I mean, very useful for a very short duration, but then you'd have to sit still just to regenerate. That would be boring. I guess you could get... Is there a mana leech? I haven't seen mana leech so far in the modifiers. So I don't know about that. But so far so good with the skills. Time duration, void damage, yeah, we don't care about that. There's another one of these bad guys here. Okay, here's a boss. I am going with the aura. As you can see now, I have no more mana, so that's really bad, but at least we were doing some damage back at the enemy. We didn't have to worry too much about. But in this situation, like when you cast a bunch of these meteors, at this point I can't do anything. You can see everything grayed out, and that's a bad situation to find yourself in. We're getting an actual boss battle now. 9% of potion health converted to word. Yeah, we don't care about that.
Farewell.
The more I played through these areas, the more I'm hearing the music and the sound, and it's creepy. I guess it is creepy the way, but it has this sort of dark charm and vibe to it, and I think because the first experience of the game has passed partially. I mean, I'm not overwhelmed by all the elements on the screen. I've gotten used to the game. I know how things move, how enemies act, and all that. I am starting to appreciate a lot more the down behind it and the vibe that the game is giving away, which is awesome. What do we want to go for next? More shrapnel? I wouldn't go into more shrapnel at this moment. I guess we're gonna get the mana recovery. Just because we're casting at least one meteor every once in a while, and I feel like getting that mana back just opens up a smoother experience to us. I wouldn't invest more further than that. And it is a nice way that when you're looking at the Sorcerer skill, right, we're looking at the Meteor, which is part of the Sorcerer Mastery, you don't have mana reduction in it. Like, we have this mana recovery, but we don't have mana reduction. Maybe we should try out the Volcanic Orb as well. And because we don't have mana reduction, oh, actually, look, we have the mana, here costs less mana. Okay, so it does give you the option to do this. I felt like, and I guess in a way it's still, like, I felt that since the specialty of the Sorcerer is to do more damage while having more mana, or yeah, while having a higher mana pool, it's going to give you this recovery so you can constantly do it. But I guess a bit further away, this is an early option, but a bit further away, you can get some mana reduction, mana cost reduction, where you lose some damage in the process, definitely, because it doesn't cost as much. You are losing some damage in the process. However, at least you have the option to do it, right? Maybe you don't like to stay on high costs. And thus they provide you with an option. And that's... I don't know for whom it is at the end of the day. Like, would you really want to invest, I don't know, up to 3 points in lowering the mana cost for Meteor Shower if you knew that you would do damage? Maybe if you make it part of your build, like if I had to think of reasons, if you don't want to make it just as a side skill and you want to make it part of your build, then maybe that's a situation where you can think, okay, well, it does make sense. I showed you static. There's also this Frost Glow. Free projectiles arc to the target location to create a burst of frost. Add the spell damage applies to burst at 100% effectiveness, and it has a freeze rate of 40%. Something like this. Nothing too impressive without being upgraded, I'm guessing. Focus, hold ability key to channel. While channeling, you have 100% increased mana regeneration and gain 10 ward per second. After channeling for exactly 1 second, you gain a burst of 40 mana and ward. Okay. Okay, so we can get ourselves some mana regeneration here. That's nice. And do I have to do like one? And Volcanic Orb. Cast a fiery orb that spews burning shrapnel in any direction. Let's see. Ah, okay, so we're just summoning it and it's going in the direction in which we threw it in. Interesting. Interesting as a skill. What do I want to run with? I think I want to run with the regeneration. I liked static, but we're not going to go into it. Let's go with a bit of mana regeneration. I mean, I'm not going to use it in combat. I doubt that that is going to be the case. However, as soon as we're finishing an area, right, threw down a lot of meteors, and at that point we can get some quick regeneration before we move forward. So that it, once again, it's the idea of making it smoother. You can make really strong builds which are clunky. And I feel like part of it was when we played the Void Knight, right? We had the Erasing Strike. We had one of those strikes where we would do like super powerful strikes. However, we had to wait for the cooldown to replenish and thus being able to cast it again. But even that was quite smooth because one of the main things of using the Erasing Strike is that it has this huge area of effect and high damage. And thus the most efficient way to use that skill was to start running away and gathering crowds. And at that point, when you had a bunch of mobs running after you, you could do an Erasing Strike, killing most of them on the spot, and thus it was very smooth. Finally, we can get ourselves Spreading Inferno, 25% chance to spread flames. This is going to add to the 90% that we also have from using our scepter there. And this should make it even more effective at clearing mobs. Plus we'll get another 10% on damage over time. Yeah, like this. We have 2 passive skill points, perfect. So at this moment I am going to go with another point here in Calculated Destruction, and we've unlocked a new set of skills. We could go for Essence of Celerity if we invest another point in Arcane Momentum. Each stack of Arcane Momentum lasts longer and also increases your spell damage. And if we invest 6 points here, we would get another 10% to movement speeds max stats. Then Afterglow, you deal increased spell damage and have additional word retention. These effects are doubled if you have recently either used a skill that costs 40 mana or started channeling a skill that costs at least 8 mana per second while channeling. So this is, I guess, if you went with the channeling the beam here, right? You went with Disintegrate, then this would work really well. You could pick up the Sorcerer and it actually would work really well. Give you some protection while you sit still. And we can get Wisdom, which gives us +3 per point, +3 mana per point invested, 3% per point mana regeneration, and at 6 points we get increased mana regeneration per 100 max mana, another 3%. Okay, we would need such a high mana pool in order to do that. We will need 2 more points invested here. I guess we have to go one way or another. And I think I'm going to go with Mana Shell because I want that extra mana and the mana regeneration. It's not exactly what I expected. It feels like we're... It almost feels like it's pushing us to invest in some sort of defensive manner, but at the same time it's quite expensive to do so, right? Because it requires 2 points to go to the next level. So it's very interesting. It's either you go with buffs or you go with a bit more protection. It's probably just to balance it out, especially because we do have a lot of mana at this moment. And we have a lot of damage as well. So you can constantly do this and sit at a distance, and you're probably most of the time going to invest in just extra damage. And it's... you can go around it. It doesn't really feel like you have to invest in defensive capabilities, but you probably should. A bit more damage over time, some freeze, don't care. There we go, leveled up the Meteor Strike again. At this point we are going to head where? Faster fall speed, I would like that. An additional meteor falls within a 4-meter radius of the first, but meteor costs much more mana. 70 plus 70. Ooh. That would eat a lot. I think I prefer to throw in about 3 more meteors rather than having another one here. But there's a lot more happening while going north, right? Yeah. We can get 3 more meteors, so we can go in a meteor shower type of build. And even further than that. Okay, well, let me go north. Extinction improves meteor's base critical strike chance. Meteor has a chance to deal damage in a significantly large area. You know, the 10% chance that we get a bigger meteor. Let's do it. As we're heading towards the end of the episode, and I'm preparing to farm out a bit more, the question that I would ask myself is, okay, I played the Mage, and I played the Sorcerer. Does it feel unique enough? Right, this is what I started with on the first episode. I want to see what the developers have done as far as creativity goes. When it comes to the Fireball, I was impressed. I'm really impressed with the fire spread. It doesn't create an AoE, which games usually do. It's doing fire spread, which happens when enemies touch each other, and they apply these ignites on them, this damage over time, which is pretty good. Like, I mean, they can multiply the damage that they're doing to each other just by being in a mob, and I feel like that works really well. It's a unique take on an idea which we've seen before, and I like it. I really do. It it does feel pretty special. Now there are plenty of skills which we've also seen which are unique in themselves, right? There's some mana regeneration, there's some shielding and doing like this fire damage round. You can modify your shields in many ways and I like that. That is, once again, it's something which at this point it's unique in comparison to many other titles. Or it's really, really rare to find. And that is good enough to me. It feels very appropriate for what they've tried to do throughout the entire game. Like when I'm playing Sentinel, when I play the Sentinel, when I play the Rogue, and when I'm playing this class, it does feel like it's familiar, right? It's not something over the type new and I have to learn everything from scratch. I understand concepts of it, but where there's also a special element about it, which the Sentinel, for example, because that was the class which had the shield with the auras, didn't have. Right? It's very different, I would say. Or it's different enough to where you could say that it's okay, special. I picked up the Meteor as a skill. And I've also upgraded it in a way that we can increase this size. I guess, am I happy? Let me ask myself this question, and I'm just trying to think out loud, trying to collect some thoughts. Am I happy with Meteor Strike? I feel like Meteor Strike starts really strong, and it gets you excited for how strong do you want to build it. And you can go in one direction where you would have multiple projectiles, right? You have multiple meteors, you can make a meteor shower sort of deal. You could go in another direction where you can get a lot more strength out of it and it can do a shrapnel effect, right? It explodes, dealing damage to nearby enemies. You could go in a direction where the damage or the area of effect is a lot bigger and you get always criticals whenever you're casting with 400 mana at least in your pool. It's interesting enough. So part of it, my question to answer towards the end of the next episode is, after playing until level 35 or something around that with the meteor shower and all that, do I feel like all classes should be unique? Or do I feel like something familiar like the Mage and the Sorcerer? Yeah, we already have this armor, don't care. Or do we feel like a class like a Mage and a Sorcerer with meteor showers and fireballs and lightning bolts and everything else that we have here is okay to have? But is it fine to pick something familiar for people who like this simple concept? Or is it okay to have something like this for people who are younger, who have never played other games, and they would never pick up older games just because they look ugly if they're not remastered, right? So something that we are very familiar with might not be the same experience for all the people who are playing it. And thus, whether that is okay or not. It's something that I will think about it as I'm farming around, and I'll try to answer this question somewhere at the end of the next episode. And we shall see. Maybe you can share your thoughts as well. Do classes need to be unique? Or is it okay to have a class or two which feel very familiar to people who have played it before? You can pause the video, you can look at what it says. It seems like we're gonna use these boots whenever we're playing a freeze build with one of these mages. But with this in mind, hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, do consider leaving a like, as it does help me, helps the channel grow. And I hope to see you in the next episode at around level 35, as we're taking a final look at what the Sorcerer has to offer. Till next time, wish you all to have a wonderful day.